Today our topic is how to analyze a primary source in research paper. First of all, we need to understand that. What is primary sources? A primary source is a first-hand account and event. Examples include newspapers, letters, diaries, photographs, sketches, music, and court case records. Historians, students, and professional researchers must analyze primary sources carefully since they are usually a record of only a single person's experience. Step 1. Annotating a primary source. Read any introductory material that accompanies the document. If you have found a primary source in an archive or online, there may be a short summary of the document set. If you are reading a primary source that your teacher or professor gave you, there may be a paragraph of introductory material. For example, if your textbook contains a diary entry from a Southern slaveholder written in 1840, perhaps the introductory. Step 3. Ask questions. If something doesn't make sense, write down your question about it. If an element of the text leaves you wanting to know more, write down your question about it. For example, if you come to a section in the slaveholder's diary about one of his slaves falling ill, you might write. Step 4. Make connections. It's important to put the document in the context of other things you know. You can try to make connections to other texts, lectures, especially if you're analyzing the source for a class, your own life, or current events. Perhaps you saw the movie 12 Years a Slave. The slaveholder's diary reminds you of a scene from the movie. Jot down the title of the movie and perhaps a short description of the scene. Step 5. Make inferences. Texts always have implied meanings. Read between the lines and write down your speculations and conclusions. Step 6. Write down anything else you thought of while reading the document. Remember that there is really no wrong way to annotate. The idea is to get all of your thoughts and questions about a document down on paper. Step 7. Write down any immediately apparent biases you see. Biases are prejudices for or against people or things. Every primary source has an element of bias to it. Literally no source ever created has no bias. If the author is making sweeping generalizations about a group of people, you should note that they appear to have a bias for or against this group. If you don't notice any biases immediately, move on. They may be tricky to find at first. Step 8. Compare the primary source to secondary sources. Think about what you have read textbooks or heard in lectures on topics related to your primary source. Ask yourself, what, if anything, seems untrue, unlikely, unclear, unbelievable about this source? And how does this compare with what I know from other sources? Does it support those sources or contradict them? Step 9. Consider when the source was written. Sometimes, if a primary source was created even a little while after an event occurred, A person looking back on the event will have a different perspective than they would have had they created a source during an event. Step 10. Analyze the overall reliability. Remember that even if you determine that an author probably had reason to be untruthful, the source may still be useful. Step 11. Think about how a scholar might use this source. What kind of research topics would it be helpful for? What might a scholar have to be careful about if they were using this source? Step 12. Write or speak about the source. Whether you were analyzing a primary source for a class discussion, an essay, or for your own personal use, you can use what you learned about the reliability of the source to write or speak about it in a more informed way. As you write or speak, note the possible bias. Contact us on aishamushtaq47@gmail.com. Facebook, Educational Hub. Thank you for watching. Hope you can easily understand that. How to analyze a primary source in research paper.